the same room. It's not COVID related. It is lazy-itis, as we call it. Isn't that right, Jack?
Correct, yeah. We've had a busy week. Nick was coming the journey.
Neither of us could be bothered driving 20 minutes down the road to each other, so we've ended up on Zoom. So we're not going to apologise. Sometimes you have hard weeks. You know what? We are here.
Exactly. For the fans.
That's right. Right. This week we'll be talking golf, cricket, as I've aptly named it, manager merry-go-round. We'll be discussing the comings and goings, what's happening at the moment. Talking a little bit about Premiership, last weekend's results, our fantasy football winner. We're going to start off with our sporting week. As we are aware, the Dubai Wanderers have made it into what we were calling it the Fab Four stage.
They're calling it the Fab Four. I'm going to have a little bit of a chat about that in a minute as well, because it's a bit pointless, let's say, but hey ho.
Right, so let's go on. So you had, was it Valley Boys this week?
It was indeed. And we didn't climb the valley, let's say. I would actually say that was our worst performance of the season, probably. First game of the season against the same opposition, obviously we weren't particularly great. I think that was always likely to happen because it was first game. But on the back of 3 wins in a row and a good performance, even in the defeat against Titans, we just weren't at the races, unfortunately. Missing 2 big players, 2 of our bowlers. Cammy was unavailable and Clint was unavailable as well because he welcomed his 3rd little boy into the world on Thursday, so obviously family was way more important. So the newest wonder, Malachi, is part of the clan now. So we were missing 2 of our 2 of our better players and 2 of the bowlers were taking some wickets. But as you know, Stu, you've got to, it's just a squad game, isn't it? And we just really weren't at the races. And Valley Boys got 200 and something, which, as we know, we're more than capable of getting, but. We didn't bowl too badly, but when we bowled a bad ball, it was an absolute pie. A full bunger or a long off or something like that even you could have smacked out the ground. And then a few little errors in the field, and then with the bat, we got off to the worst possible start because Muggins hit went first ball of the innings, and then we probably never really recovered. It's always difficult then, so. But young Ethan did well again. He got 30 odd and Tina's 20 odd and bowled quite nicely. So there was a couple of positives, but in general, disappointing. So we're hoping to bounce back this afternoon, actually.
Okay, and you just mentioned there that something is pointless. Explain a bit more on that.
Yeah, well, they've gone to this Fab Four, which is the top 4 of our sort of league or mini conference or whatever. But you take the points through against the sides that you beat, or that you're competing against, in the previous round. But so all that's mattered is that, and even if we'd won all 3 of our games in this Fab Four, we couldn't finish anything above 3rd. So we've played Titans, Valley Boys last week. We played Titans today. We play Exiles next week, and I think, and I've worked it out. So we'll then play Exiles again the following week in what will be the eliminator to go to play. I suspect Valley Boys in the semi to meet Titans in the final because there's
no other side of the group. It's just
no
guy.
Yeah, just those guys, and then so the top of the Fab Four immediately go straight to the final, and then there is a grand final because our Elite 3 or whatever they call it. There's 2 pools or 2 conferences or whatever you want to call it. So the grand final will be A versus B. Right, okay. But that's not to the grand final. So I don't know, they're just experimenting. I mean, it's games of cricket. I think that's what they're trying to do. And I think the guys in our half wanted to play most cricket at the 7s, and the other guys in the half wanted to play elsewhere, mainly because of expense, I think. So I understand why they've done it, but I think it could have been done a little bit better. And they're not pointless because you want to win games with momentum and all things like that, but it's just kind of, you already know what's going to happen, if that makes sense. So
it almost sounds like the old Scottish League where when they split it half and half, and then the top half played, and you end up playing. You could end up playing Exiles Exiles 4 times.
No, maximum 3. So we've played them already in the normal. They will play them next week in this Fab Four, and then we will play them the following week in the eliminator. So 3 times in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, or whatever. So anyway. It is what it is. It's games of cricket, and hopefully, at the end of the day, what the bonus is, we've still got a chance of reaching the final and winning it. So that's what we've got to build towards the next few games. But now the Booths had a prosperous weekend, didn't you? And then you also played on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'd actually forgot about the weekend. Yeah, so
underwater.
I said about that the better. On the weekend I dropped Harry off on Saturday morning, and he went to play in the MENA Cup. So they're having a regional tournament for the MENA Cup, which goes international beginning of next year. I think it's around about the spring break time, where a lot of international clubs come over, and there's a few pro clubs come in as well. So it'll be exciting times. So I think it was a tester for the tournament, and also to see what the level of the local teams are like. They were Harry's team, and sounds a bit like your cricket setup. Group of four, there was a second group of four. Everybody played everybody. After the first round of games, Harry's team had played 3, won 1, lost 2, qualified for the quarterfinals. Everybody qualified, and they went into knockout football. Harry's team actually lost their opening 2 games 1-0, 1-0, and then won 4-0, I think, against JFL. Went through to the quarters and played City Football Club, which is linked to Dubai City FC. It's their feeder club. So they're usually a pretty strong team. Beat them 1-0. Harry scored, so he's quite happy with himself. In the semi-finals, played DG Pro, who they drew in the league with last week 1-1. Beat them 3-0, scored again. And then ended up playing Barcelona in the final, who they lost the opening game to 1-0 and won 1-0. Harry scored again. Harry's team, from losing their opening 2 games of the competition, ended up winning it, and Harry received Golden Boot. So he's very happy with himself. They also had a player of the tournament who actually won a year's free supply of Umbro stuff. So Harry was like, well, he's won that, I've got Golden Boot, look what I've won. We've won a size 4 Umbro football.
He did get a voucher, told me that, didn't he?
You got a 100 dirham voucher as well. So yeah, it's not the worst, but when you compare it to player of the tournament and Golden Boot, they were miles apart from each other.
He would have been unlucky not to win player of the tournament being Golden Boot winner, right?
Yeah, so you potentially argue that, but it's a great experience. He managed to get some game time in and played there. Meanwhile, I on Saturday morning couldn't attend his football because I was playing Crown Green bowling, which you may sit there and mock me and turn your nose up. I actually really enjoyed it.
This is it. And you're going to criticise me for playing cricket?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, much more action happens on a Crown Green bowling turf than it does on a cricket pitch, I can tell you that.
I saw.
It was really bizarre. They paired me up with a guy and played off and played pairs, played a really old couple, they're about 70 odd. We beat them. Turns out my partner used to play for Scotland International, so I'd say I didn't win any of the points. He won all of them for us, but no, he didn't really. We shared the points, but I think he probably won 3/4 of them. But yeah, it was a good giggle and something different to do on a Saturday morning, where maybe I'm used to running around a football pitch with a bit of a hangover. It's a much more relaxing start to the day. And then after that, we went to All Stars monthly presentation award, which I was voted Player of the Month for the Vets team. Watched Man City beat Man United, so it was like a big thumbs up there for me. I can't remember much more after that. We'll leave that alone. So won a voucher for a free afternoon out. So that's good news. So, and then on Wednesday we were supposed to play. I can't think it was. We were supposed to play somebody decent, and they pulled out of the game. So we ended up playing an internal fixture against our second team, who we actually played a couple of weeks ago. Our second team, I think, are unbeaten in the league, and they're flying in Division 2 or Division 1. And we turned them over 2-1, much to the dismay of Dario and his blatant cheating. To try and get the equaliser at the end. Yes, but great result, and next week we play the Irish, so it was good prep.
And I believe that your gaffer has been listening to me, because he made the move, didn't he?
Well, I started centre half first half, and then my Achilles was killing me, and I was like, I'm going to come off at half time. It was 1-0, I just thought, don't really need to be running around. And then he was like, Stu, number 10. I was like, we'll play in the hole, go if you want. I was like, my calf's fine, my Achilles is brilliant, I can carry on playing. But yeah, I really enjoyed
me was that I was absolutely top draw.
But yeah, I'm not going to lie, I was class. Yeah.
Humble, stay humble.
Yeah, stay humble. I was brilliant. Yeah. I'm waiting for a phone call from the second at any minute. Yeah.
Before we move on, we ought to mention Barrichello, really, didn't we?
I thought we were going to stay away from this one, right? If I'm completely honest with you. Right, so as viewers will be aware, we invested in Barrichello last year and he came second in every race that he ran. 10 second places, was never the bride, always the bridesmaid. So we decided we're going to stop that investment and we're going to look elsewhere. Barrichello's first run this season. What happened, Jack?
Well, he won by 30 lengths.
What?
I don't think there's anybody else racing.
It couldn't be because the guy had no finish. He was literally a one-pace pony, wasn't he? He was like, how on earth he got 30 lengths away from everybody else?
Don't know. Anyway, yeah, what could have been, eh? What could have been?
We'll just park Barrichello there and never to talk about him again. You know that secret box, we're going to put him inside.
Yeah.
Close the lid, lock it, and throw away the key.
Throw away the key, that's it. And see him in Tesco.
Yes. Right, okay, so what we'll do is we'll quickly look at the cricket because we have the actual semi-finals on Wednesday night, England versus New Zealand, which was the game that you did say you were slightly worried about and a little bit apprehensive about, and rightly so.
Yeah, I mean, I was, because 2 or 3 reasons that, and this is not after that, people who would have spoken before the game would vouch for this. One, I think England death bowling hadn't been brilliant over the last 2 or 3 games, because you've got to remember in the early games they didn't need to death bowl, either were bowling first or bowling second because they just annihilated everybody. So I was a bit concerned about that, and also people underestimate New Zealand. They're a very, very good side, a very good sporting nation considering how small they are. I mean, in cricketing terms, I think there's only something like 110, if that, professional cricketers, first-class cricketers in the country, yet they are world test champions. They were the current runners-up in the world 50-over competition and will either be runners-up or winners of the World T20. So there's some pedigree there. And in Kane Williamson, they've got a great captain, and although he didn't get any the other night, a world-class player. So I was concerned, albeit I thought that they made the right call in replacing Roy with Best at the top of the order, bringing Billings in, and actually we were trading Wednesday night because the game was in Abu Dhabi, so not really possible to get there with work and stuff. So, and actually I thought 166 was a decent enough effort with the bat. You always want more, but it's tricky batting first over here. I think the tournament's seen that. And then, to be fair, he's gambled Morgan with Livingston with his 4 overs of spin, and with 16 overs gone when Livingston had bowled that over took a wicket for 4 or 5 or something like that. They needed 60 or 4 overs. Now, you're in position A. But I was watching it and I messaged my dad because the 17th over from Chris Jordan went for 23. And it wasn't just the fact it went for 23, it was such a poor over. I messaged him and said, game over. Now, what I wasn't expecting to happen was that they did win, but with an over to spare. So they effectively scored 60 runs in 3 overs, and that's poor. As I said, Jordan's over was really poor. Rashid bowled the next one, was a little bit unlucky, spin bowling over 18, tough ask, and he was unlucky, but he went for 20, I think. And then Wokes' 19th over was abysmal. And so, unfortunately, and as can happen in 2020 cricket, you can switch so quickly. And my fears were realised, unfortunately, that death bowling wasn't quite up to it. Certainly missed Archer and Stokes, obviously, who never were part of the squad because of injury and things like that. Sam Curran, again, not part of the squad. He's done a bit of that for the Chennai Super Kings in the IPL. And they brought Sunil Mills in to do that job because he bowls like 90 miles an hour, but then got slow balls. I personally don't think he'd bowl particularly well in the tournament, but got injured, and the experts are saying that he would have made a difference. So, unlucky, but you know it's the game, isn't it? And do you know what? If you're going to lose to somebody, I'm quite happy to lose to New Zealand because they play at the right spirit, some good cricketers, and I just hope they go on and beat the Aussies in a game that they last night beat Pakistan in a very similar game. They were dead and buried with 5 overs to go and one with an over to spare. So,
bizarrely, I got a message actually off a friend / parent, giving me grief about England losing. I was like, "Where are you coming from? You're Swiss." And he's like, "Oh no, I've painted my passport black." And it turns out when I spoke to his son was like, "Yeah, he just hates England."
Oh, nice, cheers, mate.
But, I actually texted him back going, "You're Swiss. You should be sat on the fence. You're not supposed to pick sides."
Exactly.
But he was having none of it. But yeah, good luck to New Zealand final. Close encounter, and it'll be obviously everybody loves a derby match in the final. So
yeah, I mean it'll be interesting already because obviously lots of we've got a big Pakistani expat community over here. So I think it would have been good for Pakistan to be in the final in terms of you saw it last night. The stadium would have been as full as whatever they can get it in COVID capacity times. But already on the sort of 2 or 3 groups that I'm involved in, they're giving their tickets away. Tickets are available. So I just wonder how full the ground's going to be, which will be a bit of a shame really because it is a World Cup final. So you never know. I might get myself there with an all black shirt on.
Yes. Right. Well, what we'll do is we'll jump from cricket and we'll go straight to last week's football results. Obviously, international football week this week, so it's paint your house.
Look at it. He hates it.
Just can't. It feels like they're coming more frequent. I just don't understand.
Yeah, I know.
Every time I think we're about to get a bit of a run in, is this because of backlog with COVID or something? I don't know. It's just doing my nutting. But yeah, we'll start with. Was it Friday night, Saturday morning for us? Southampton 1, Aston Villa 0.
Yeah.
I think that was the nail in the coffin, wasn't it, for Villa fans?
Yeah, I think listening to him this week and what have you, that they really didn't want Smith to go, but they felt that maybe the time was up. I mean, I've never been a massive Smith fan. I'll be honest. I think he's been bang average, but his results and things do say different, don't they, to a degree?
We had a quick discussion about this in the office, and I think Villa, when they've got this windfall from selling of Grealish, is that they've just not invested wisely. They've invested and maybe have just got a little bit gung-ho. I do wonder, because Danny Ings initially was a great investment and is a great player, but for Southampton to let him go so quick, so cheap, and just without any type of fuss, makes me wonder if they've seen something there that, a bit like the Liverpool Torres sale, which everybody thought at the time was a bad sell by Liverpool, but turned out to be a great bit of business for Liverpool, even though we did buy Andy Carroll on the back of it. But it just made me wonder, is that Villa now, they've obviously pumped that money into all these players that haven't invested wisely. Meanwhile, Southampton, on the other hand, have gone about, done some astute business and bought a lot of nobodies that nobody really knew about and seems to be doing really, really well. But we'll see how that pans out, and obviously we're going to cover Villa's new manager shortly.
Yeah.
The game that I watched was United versus City.
I watched that as well. What a non-event. We've not spoken about this because honestly, listeners, we've been that busy that even people in Dubai think we're joined at the hip. Literally, we've hardly seen each other this week. We've been that busy. What a non-event. What a non-event that game was.
I was a bit disappointed that United just didn't have a bit more about them to go and have a go at City. It was almost like it was almost like a attack versus defence training game. And even then, City kind of like didn't really bomb on and really push. And obviously, it could have been 3 or 4-0 up. De Gea's made some great saves, but second half was just a waste of time even happening. I spent most of the time talking to the lads and watching the game because it just nothing happened. I said, Cancelo, I tell you what, they must be looking at that Juventus and going, why did we ever let him go for so cheap? Because he's on fire this year. But
did you see Neville said about that? That Neville, you know when Neville was at, where did he manage for a little bit? Valencia, was it?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether Cancelo was at Valencia with him or he'd seen him play in the spot. I can't remember, but Neville said, I got Sir on the phone after seeing him twice or whatever it was. So maybe he was part of his squad. I don't know, because he lived in a young pup, wasn't he then? And he said, and I recommended a certain club, doesn't take much guessing who, to buy him, and they ignored him. And because he's what a player.
You know who sold him from Juventus? Your director of football.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't know. Brilliant.
It's not what you want, my friend. Yeah, your director of football was the one that got rid of him.
But sometimes players, it's like people talk about Mourinho with like your man Salah and De Bruyne. Sometimes it just doesn't fit at that time, doesn't it?
I tell you what, did anybody see his Spurs sunglasses come on then?
Yeah, come on, let's not get into it straight away.
Yeah, right, okay, we'll move on.
5 months, not made a signing, sacked manager.
Yeah, right, okay, we'll move on to the next one. Brentford 1, Norwich 2. Surprise, I think, for everybody out there, probably broke a few actors along the way. And even bizarre was after Norwich pick up their first win of the season, they go and sack the manager, which we're going to go into manager in a second, so we'll just hold fire on that. But strange happenings. But great result for Norwich, which again keeps them with some slight life in staying up. Moving on, another strange result. Chelsea 1, Burnley 1. But Burnley have a bit of a history going to Stamford Bridge and getting a few freak results. A couple of seasons ago, they actually won the opening game of the season there, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
So maybe it's not as strange as we at first suspect. Crystal Palace 2, Wolves 0. Wolves just don't seem to think they're going to kick on and start a bit of a run, but then falter in the next game. Meanwhile, Palace,
I tell you what,
they are going really well. And I do wonder if the boys at Arsenal look at Patrick Vieira going, maybe we've gone with the wrong person.
I don't know, we said before, I think that the fact of the matter is, he didn't even have a squad. Hardly had a squad opening day of the season. And what he's done now is phenomenal. I just wonder whether they've got any money at all to buy to improve the squad in January, or whether he'll just go with what he's got until next summer. Because we watched that documentary, didn't we, where he was there, which was from a few years ago, obviously. But from that, you get the passion from the fans and also the owner, that they do want to do something a little bit special, don't they? And maybe they've got the map now.
With it range, isn't it? I just wonder now is obviously Patrick Vieira has always been closely associated with Arsenal, but he's actually got quite strong links with City.
Yeah, yeah.
If he goes well now and next season, when Pep's contract's up at the end of 2023, if that could be a potential.
I mean, he's certainly doing a great job, isn't he? And you know that, like, I don't know the tail off the top of it, but they keep going. Is Europe beyond them or not? You know, things like that. Did he a cup win? They're certainly doing very well. And I see Conor Gallagher scored for England under 21s again last night, so he's a good player, that lad.
Yeah, he can get forward. There's something about him when I first watched him last year was he just threw himself about the pitch a bit too much. You know, people when they got to tackle, he just went to ground too easy, but hopefully with the fact that the new ruling is eliminating that, eradicating it, then we might be able to see him a bit more on the ball trying to drive forward.
Yeah.
Other result on that day was Brighton 1, Newcastle 1. Brighton have been a bit disappointed after a great result at Anfield, to then draw at home to Newcastle, and I think at the moment we'll be trying to get as many points on the board against Newcastle as possible because we have no idea what's going to happen come January.
Yeah.
Moving over to Sunday, Arsenal 1, Watford 0. Aubameyang missed a penalty. I had him as captain of the fantasy football, -2 points. Thanks, hopes. And to be fair, any highlights they showed was Arsenal trying to score. There is a bit of controversy for the Watford goal, for the Arsenal goal.
Yes, I've not seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was something happened in the build-up where somebody goes down and they kind of should have stopped play, but they didn't. They carried on, and then resulted in them scoring. But
play to the whistle.
That's correct. But they had a chance to defend it. It wasn't like it was an immediate impact. It was good 30, 40 seconds after it. Everton 0, Spurs 0. I did watch some of it, and it was diabolical.
Yeah. I watched the. I was out. I did watch the highlights, and it was just. Yeah, I think it was dire, wasn't it? I think from a Spurs point of view, the only positive you can take from it is that we kept a clean sheet and it was a point on the road, and that's it. And he's not started. He started with a win in the conference and a draw away in the Premiership. I think he'll go to work now. I saw some shots actually from yesterday on the training pitch. Obviously, the international boys are away, but to be honest, there's not many of them now. Kane, Son, who scored the winner against the UAE actually last night, and bizarrely Bergwijn's with Holland. I think that Skippy's with the under 21s and Højbjerg. I think that's it. So he's got a large majority of his players there still. Oh my goodness, he was working them hard, and you could see him running. There's pictures of him running up and down the touchline, proper. You know how he's for Chelsea, you know, that kind of thing.
I reckon he's brought 3 fitness coaches with him.
Yeah. I reckon he was overweight. He's banned all sorts of stuff in the canteen again. You know, much the same stories that came out when he went to Chelsea, but I think he definitely means business. I think there's no doubt it's a great appointment. I just wonder, it'll be a telltale sign to see how far Spurs really are away from the top 4 in terms of quality, as to how long it takes them to get back up there. Yeah. I think moving forward in the front third, I think if you can get people, none of them are playing particularly well. Son, Kane, and if you get them firing, I think we're as good as anybody. But defensively, we're way off.
Yeah, when I watch it, unfortunately, Kane drops in too deep, and he seems to be playing too much counter-attacking football. And unfortunately, Kane's not quick enough to get back up when Son goes or Mora goes. So for me, your starting attacks needs to be higher up the pitch. You know, you need to be building the ball up slower to get everybody into the right positions, and then look at intricate football. But it seems to be like Kane drops in, then it gets fired out wide for Son to run onto, and then Son runs and he's on his own because Kane can't get there.
Yeah, and of course the slow build-up play, we've not got anybody creative to do that. That's where Eriksen would come into his own. You know, back when we were good.
Yeah. Right. Well, other game that happened at that time was Leeds against Leicester, which finished 1-1. Again, Leeds just can't seem to pick up 2 wins in a row at the moment. So
I wouldn't be surprised if they have a proper relegation battle.
Yeah. And then what can only be described as game of the day was West Ham 3, Liverpool 2. For me, West Ham deserved the win. I think I'm not gonna. I'll talk a bit about the Cresswell tackle and how that could have changed the game. And there's part of me that thinks it could have been a red, but at the same time, I think there's elements that might persuade people not to give him a red. But for me,
it's a red card.
Yeah, Declan Rice was just another level. The funny thing was when Liverpool got to Salah kind of isolates himself one-on-one with the fullback. And a few times he's got past and beyond Cresswell, and then Rice just comes in, bang, clears it out. And he's just, the covering he does on a pitch is just phenomenal. And he's not going to be one of these that's going to spray like a Pogba, a 40, 50-yard world-class ball. But the guy is just in the right place at the right time all the time. It just disrupted us.
Yeah, I was talking to Dan about him the other week in relation to how poor, in comparison, like Højbjerg is compared to, you know, Spurs. And what Declan Rice has done, because I'll be honest, probably even probably this time last year, I was jury's out on him a little bit more. He's no better than, if you like, Calvin Phillips, you know, that kind of, I said before, if you're going to make it pro, go to be that anchor in midfield because you can tackle and you pass the ball 5 yards sideways, you're going to make a living. But what he's done under Moyes, and Moyes has got to take credit for him, is he's done that. He's got himself around the pitch so he can break up play anywhere. What he's then able to do also, he's not got the ability yet to ping a 40-yard pass, but he can pick a pass, he passes forward, and he's also driving into the box to get on the end of things and shoot. A la Lampard, he's probably not going to have the goal scoring ability of Lampard eventually, but he's almost that. When me and you were growing up, Stu, it was that you just played centre midfield, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you had to get up and down. If one of you went, the other one did, and vice versa. You were just centre midfield players, not CDM, ADM, whatever it all is, ADHD, whatever it is. You were just a centre midfield player. And I think he's been brilliant this season. I really do.
I think he has elements of Gerrard about him with that ability to, tenacity to make tackles and drive around the pitch. And he does grab the game. Not quite like Gerrard did, but you've still got a young pup there that could still develop. But yeah, outstanding for me. But we'll just cover the Cresswell tackle. I think what makes me think it's a red is that he's in a standing position and he's got no other intent other than to chop Henderson in half. So the fact that first foot, and this is where I think he gets away with it not being a red, is he glances the ball and raises it slightly higher, and obviously then impacts on the inside of Jordan's knee. But then the other leg is definitely up there off the floor in a chopping action to hit the ball and follow through and hit the lad. So for me, is in the day and age, is he in control? No. Is he off the ground? Yes. So there's lots of indications there that could potentially point forward.
It's a red for me. Like, it's just reckless. I haven't got a problem. I want the game to be hard, and I think the fact that most of the time this season the refs have allowed it to go a bit, and it's not been like a basketball game where it's stop-start all the time, which I think it has been over the last few years, and I think players are realising they can't con the referees as much at the moment. But that said, tackles like that for me that are reckless, out of control, really dangerous. You know, things like that could be career-ending. Particularly for somebody like Henderson, who's he's not a young lad. If he gets a big bad break of his leg or his ACL goes like that, I'm not saying it's curtains, but it's not far off, is it? And I know that you don't take that into consideration when you referee in the football match, but I just think those sort of tackles. And look, I don't think Creswell's that sort of player. I think everybody gets it wrong, don't they? A bit overzealous or whatever it might be. But red card for me, definitely. But West Ham are going well, aren't they? Ooh, wow.
Oh yeah, I shared it. And the fact that Moyes is mentioned as the United manager is frightening. And just going back onto that before we move on to managers in general, is that he went to United as a poison chalice that he was taking over, arguably the greatest Premiership manager we've ever had. So it's never going to be an easy fit in, an easy setting. And you think about, and this is what makes me laugh, is they give Solskjaer so much more time, so much more investment, so much more belief, but yet didn't with Moyes, and then West Ham have. And you've got a team that 2 years ago, 18 months ago, were fighting relegation, and now could be a legitimate, they're a European club now, the top 6 club. They could be a push for the top 4 now.
I've got an opinion on that, shot, and I've said it for many years, and I know it's a long time ago now. But you're right, Moyes got appointed, and it was obviously Ferguson's appointment, clearly. What didn't happen for me is that they didn't really back him in the transfer market, or he couldn't get anybody there because, Man United had won the title the year before, but by default, because everybody else was rubbish. And couldn't buy anybody, could he? They couldn't get anybody, so he panic bought Fellaini, if you remember, for a lot of money, which I don't think was a wise move, but I can understand why he did it, because he was one of his players and he needed to buy somebody, didn't he, at the end of the day? And I've just said before, if they'd given him longer, I think they would have been in a better position earlier than what they are now. I'm not saying he would still be here, I don't know, because history, whatever, but 100% I do honestly believe, and I've said it for a long time, if they gave Moyes longer, they'd be no worse off now. Maybe he would have left by now and another manager come in, I don't know. But you're right, didn't give him long enough. And then all the moan about Mourinho, well, when he was in charge, that's the last time they won anything. And he came second in the league. So what's the difference? And I think we'll link on that to the managers. I think that Man United have missed a massive opportunity to get rid of Solskjaer and get a manager in who is worth his salt and probably will take it to the next level. Because I think me and you said at the beginning of the year, their squad is decent, isn't it? You cannot, and I think that might have even before Ronaldo signed, but he's clearly not getting the best out of them on a regular basis. Absolutely, right. Keep him at the wheel, but they missed out on Conte. Who do they go to now?
Yeah. But moving on to managers, we'll start with Norwich, because that's to be the strangest one that's happened in the last 7 days. So Norwich finally get 3 points on the board, put a great performance in against Brentford, could have won by more, and then the following couple of hours sack him.
I don't get it. I'll be honest, I've not read too much about it, because I don't think there's been too much conjecture about it. I don't know whether it was pre-planned, I don't know whether they'd had a big fallout, whether that Farke had decided it was more him than them to a degree. I don't know, but it is utterly bizarre, particularly when something like that happens quickly. And I guess the Spurs example of 2 weeks ago is probably a good example, is that usually something happens quickly. It's because a club's got somebody lined up and it's literally in the back door. Villa have probably done the same. You know, we're going to sack you, Stu, because I've got him. He's literally, you're going to go out that door, he's coming in this door. But that's not happened, has it? And apparently they've interviewed Smith from Villa, who apparently wants to get into a job straight away, who apparently is impressed. But what a bizarre move that would be, who's just been sacked from a side, also fighting relegation, if you like. They're looking at Lampard. I can understand that, but you're not saying that he's got any calibre to get a side out of from the bottom of the table. And then somebody from the Norwegian, the Norwegian side who beat Roma 6-1.
Yes.
Apparently looked at him.
I'll tell you who you get, Big Sam.
Oh no, those ships have gone. I know he's your pal from the northwest, but he's gone, pal. He needs to remain here in Dubai, because apparently he's here watching the cricket and Rob Beckett and all sorts of stuff here. Apparently he's here, Big Sam.
All right, we'll see on that front, but yeah, strange one. And then Newcastle finally appoint somebody, I would have said a little bit left field, because of the potential investments and the money that was coming into the club. There was a lot of talk of a big international manager coming in, and they've gone with Eddie Howe, whose last performance was to get Bournemouth relegated.
Well, you're funny you say this. I agree with you. I think first of all, I think obviously Eddie Howe's got something about him, because he's been talked about in lots of circles for a lot of time, hasn't he? However, I think this appointment says to me one of two things. That, you know, this is the guy who in the end Celtic didn't decide to appoint. This is the guy who, like I say, his last act was Bournemouth were relegated. None of the other top clubs, or not top clubs, or the clubs in the Premiership have looked at him in the summer. So I'm thinking Everton, Spurs themselves, other man, they've not looked at him. Newcastle have gone there. I think it is underwhelming. Does it suggest that potentially the money's not going to be there as much in January as what people are saying? Because the flip side of that is he's never worked with what you'd say top players. And so how are they going to, you know, encourage them to come? Or other than it will just be for money? And I think then has its own issues, doesn't it? You know, I'm only signing up there. Yeah, I'm gonna play for Newcastle. No idea about it. Anyhow, don't really care about Newcastle, but they're going to give me $250,000 a week, and I'm 34 years old. It's a strange appointment for me, and I don't think it's one that particularly worries me.
I think when I look at it and I think of Eddie Howe's career, his only other team he's managed outside of Bournemouth was Burnley, and that was an absolute disaster, which lasted a mere matter of months, not even seasons. So the only thing I can think of is at the moment he's a go-to stop to try and keep them in the Premiership because he knows the Premier League. And then in the summer we'll see a big guy come in, and then investments will then come after that point. So that's the only thing I can see and how that's going to work. But yeah, strange one. And then,
that's the point. I was going to just sorry before we move on. That was the other thing I was going to say, was that it's almost like the Nuno one, that any excuse they've got to sack him if somebody better comes along or bigger name, it'll go. So a bit of a gamble on both sides, I would think.
Yeah, and then the big one, which has had everybody debating this week, is Aston Villa appointing Steven Gerrard. So we've had back and forth conversations over WhatsApp on this, and including Matty Aldred as well. Is where's Gerrard's head at? Is it a case of when you compare the two clubs in size and stature, Rangers a bigger club, I would say. He's leaving a potential. Well, he's leaving the champions of Scotland. He's leaving a team that's in Europe and a great chance of making Champions League football again next year, and a good chance of winning the league this year. To go to Aston Villa, who are in a dogfight, who have invested poorly, but the only potential thing I'm thinking of is his Premiership experience. So, how does he come to that decision of picking between the two?
Oh, you've sort of stolen what I was going to ask you from me, really, because I think that can only be it. Because if, from the outside looking at it, I would be thinking, well, I've got a very good chance of winning back-to-back titles in Scotland. I will then qualify for the Champions League again. My aim is to try and get into the group stage of that, so it would be like early season next year. And then I've got some proper pedigree behind my name. He's probably going to pick up a Scottish Cup or Scottish League Cup along the way as well. And then, and what I'm saying is, you've probably got another 18 months, 16 months before the Premiership comes calling. And then by that point, I might actually wait a little bit to see what Klopp does at Liverpool, because I've got a bit of thing. That's really where I want to manage. To go to Aston Villa, who, yeah, they're a big club, traditional club from England, aren't they? There's no doubt about that. Where I think you're right, I disagree with Carragher. Carragher thinks they spent the money quite wisely. I don't think they did. I think there's obviously an issue over Ings. I would say it's probably fitness. They've had to change their system to fit him and Ollie Watkins into the same side, which has forced Brendier. Obviously he's going to do different, but when Deere spent a lot of money on, he's not done the business. The other fella, Bailey, has hardly played.
Not even remotely in there.
Yeah, he's got such a big job to do to get them where he needs to be, i.e. out of the relegation. And again, if he does that and has 2 years there where he survives this battle and gets them high up the table the following next season, whatever, then what a gamble, and because he will then get a big job and probably the Liverpool job. But what if it doesn't go to plan? What if it's an absolute, even if they survive this year, which I think they probably will, but it's one of those ones, the win one, draw one, lose three, win one. It's a proper struggle. The fans aren't really that keen. What does that do to his managerial career and his Liverpool prospects?
I think what everybody's talking about at the moment is that Gerrard's contract's aligned with Klopp's, hasn't it? So and he signed the contract to run out at the same time as Klopp. Makes me wonder if Liverpool have turned around to Gerrard and said that if you want to be in with a chance of managing Liverpool, yes, it's brilliant. You've gone and got range experience and you've done well in that league and you've turned the team around. You won the first title they've won in X amount of years. That's awesome. You're getting a little bit of European exposure. But we need to see you in the light of the Premiership day to day. He could look at Moyes as an example, and this is potentially my only sensible thought I can potentially think about, is that West Ham are in a very similar position to Aston Villa are now 2 years ago. And Moyes come in there, set up a team, restructure the team. Moyes is traditional, and we talked about Fellaini. They've always been big and physical, big physical outfit that can play a bit but are an absolute danger on set pieces. I think that's why Fellaini was probably what he invested in United, but just didn't fit the style of play they wanted. So the only thing I think of is Gerrard thinking, well, Moyes has done that with them. I've got every confidence in my ability as a manager, along with my backroom staff. He's got Gary McAllister as his second, hasn't he? And some of the other Liverpool old boys floating around as well. So I'm just wondering if he's going, I back my ability. Moyes can do it at West Ham. I can do this at Aston Villa. And maybe Villa have turned around to him and said, yes, we have pumped quite a bit of money in on Bailey, Buendia, Danny Ings. And the squad, when you look at that piece of paper, doesn't actually look that bad. You've got Douglas Luiz in there. He's not bad. Traore can play a bit. McGinn is absolutely mustard. Martinez is, outside of the top four, is one of the best goalies in the Premiership. I'm just wondering if he's looked at that squad and going, maybe I can do a little bit with this team, and then that's going to give me that exposure, that Premiership experience. It's going to support my job. Liverpool, you are right. Any job he takes is going to be flicking a coin on how it's going to affect the chance to get Liverpool. I personally wouldn't have Gerrard taken on from Klopp in 2.5 years' time. I think that's too big, too soon, too early for Gerrard. He needs to go and get 6, 7, 8 more years experience managing, because you've got an experienced manager there, and we've seen it with United, is that when you lose such a big player or such a big manager such as Ferguson's done, when Pep goes, when Klopp eventually moves on, it's a big stepping stone for somebody. And if you've never experienced stepping into that shoes before, like what's happened to Moyes, can have that adverse effect, can't it? So for me, I would go with somebody else before Gerrard and Gerrard later on.
It's interesting you say that though, but he has, by that point, he would have been managing almost 7 years. And Rangers is a big club. I know the quality of Scottish football. We know all about that. But Rangers is a massive club, and he's turned that club around on the pitch and off the pitch. I think you're right, though. I think he'll do a good job because I've been very impressed with him at Rangers. I've been impressed with when he does his press conferences, how he deals with the media, how he's dealt with. He's got some difficult players in there. Like Moraes, for one. He's probably arguably his best player up there over the last 3 years he's been there, but he's also the one that causes him the most grief on and off the pitch.
Liability.
But he's handled him brilliantly. So there's no doubt that he's got the calibre to be a top manager. I think it's probably a risky move for both Villa and Gerrard, and we'll just see how it plays out. But very good to have him back in the Premiership. I'd like to see Lampard get the Norwich job, if I'm honest. John Terry's somewhere about he's going to get an English job, because it'd just be good to see some English managers back in the Premiership. Eddie Howe now as well, so it'd just be good to see those guys in there.
Yeah, right. Before we go on to fantasy football, you just wanted to give a quick shout out to golf.
Yeah. So I think we've mentioned him before, and he's just never quite got him on the show, but hopefully at the minute we might do, because Dave Koopman from my hometown in Boston used to be the pro at the club where my brother worked. He's currently in Dubai, in the Dubai Championship. It's the Aviva Dubai Championship, which is this weekend. The prologue to next weekend's big race, the Dubai Championship, which I am looking forward to. But he was -5 after round 1, and I'm just looking at the live scorecard now. He's through 6 holes this morning, and he's up to -8, so he's actually tied 3rd at the moment in the leaderboard. So good thing. I'm hoping to get there tomorrow. It's a good group of players there. Fleetwood's up there, Sullivan, Burmeister, all the big boys are here. So hopefully tomorrow afternoon I'm going to get down there and round 3 and see Coops keep climbing that leaderboard. So good luck, Dave, and to the rest of them. And more importantly, I'm looking forward to sort of 2 weekends of golf coming up.
I thought you were going to say more importantly, looking forward to seeing your mum and dad, but obviously that's not a priority.
That's just a byproduct. And talking of golf, we best give a shout out to the WSO Golf Society. Their November tournament is tomorrow.
Yes.
Current
Wellington champions as well.
Yes, the Wellington boot. I see you got to mention the work sway this week, didn't it?
Yes, congratulations, Fogs, and the gang down there.
So I'm backing Larks. We're going to back Larks for this month's tournament.
Oh,
he just needs to get off the tee, the big fella.
I'm going to go with Rudy.
Oh, outsider. Highest handicapper.
Yes, I'm going to go with Rudy. Right, fantasy football. So the winner this week was John Keeney, ex-school friend from back when we were at Corpus Christi, back in Preston. So congratulations, John Keeney. If you ever get yourself out here, you're more than welcome. I know Void voucher will be on its way to you. Go and enjoy. Excellent.
I've just given up with fantasy football.
Well, that's because, Jack.
What do we know?